All right, today we are talking about a company that's not just tweaking the system, they're trying to completely flip the script on organ transplants. We're diving into TransMedics and their quest to completely change the game.
You know the drill with organ transplants, right? For decades, it's been this frantic race against the clock. Grab an organ, throw it on ice, and just run. But what if that didn't have to be the case? What if we could actually keep those organs warm, alive, even getting healthier outside the body? That's the huge, fundamental problem TransMedics says they've cracked. And if they're right, the implications are just, they're massive.
And look, we're not talking about small baby steps here. The CEO of TransMedics, Dr. Waleed Hassanein, he calls it a global renaissance in organ transplants. The thinking is shifting, you see. It's not just a last-ditch effort to save a life anymore. It's being seen as a really smart, cost-effective way to treat end-stage organ failure.
And it's not like this is happening in some kind of a bubble, right? There are some major forces pushing this change forward. Here in the US, you've got federal agencies, even Congress, pushing to modernize the whole system. Over in Europe, the big Organ Transplantation Society put out a call for action, published in The Lancet no less, basically screaming for more investment. So all these signs are pointing to one thing. We need a new way of doing this, and we need it now.
So into this perfect storm of need and opportunity steps TransMedics. They're basically casting themselves as the hero of this story. And every hero needs a weapon, right? Theirs is a really powerful three-part strategy they call the Trident.
And the CEO, he's not mincing words about it. He says, and I'm quoting here, their success has been and will remain fueled by the unique TransMedics Trident. So he's basically all in on this strategy. The whole company is riding on it. Okay, so what is this Trident?
Okay, so the Trident has three parts, three prongs that all have to work together perfectly. First up, you have the core tech itself, the Organ Care System, or OCS. Then there's how they deliver it. That's the second prong, the National OCS Program, which is their all-in-one clinical service. And holding it all together is the third prong, a dedicated logistics network. We're talking a private fleet of airplanes. It's the whole shebang, from start to finish.
Let's zoom in on that core technology for a sec, because this is the real game changer. The OCS, it's not just a fancy cooler, seriously. Think of it more like a portable ICU, but for an organ. Instead of freezing it on ice, which, let's be honest, is just starting a countdown to damage, the OCS keeps it warm. It's pumping it full of warm, oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood. It's basically tricking the organ into thinking it's still inside a body. This buys hours of time and even lets doctors check out the organ, maybe even make it healthier before it ever gets to the patient.
So the big question is, does this Trident thing actually work? Is it making a difference? Well, let's look at the numbers. Their latest Q2 2025 report tells a pretty powerful story. They're calling it a new high watermark, which tells you their all-in-one approach seems to be seriously paying off.
Okay, let's just start with the big, flashy number. In just one quarter, TransMedics pulled in over $157 million in revenue. And this wasn't just a good quarter, it was a brand new record for them. That kind of number points to a massive uptick in people actually using their tech and services. Now, to put that number into perspective, that $157.4 million, that's a 38% jump from the exact same quarter last year. 38%. The company's argument is that this isn't just a fluke, it's proof of really fast, sustained growth. And for them, more growth means more organs getting transplanted and ultimately more lives being saved.
And it's not just about the money coming in. Take a look at their bank account. The company is sitting on over $400 million in cash. Now, why does that matter? Well, that cash is basically the rocket fuel for everything they want to do next. It's what's going to fund new headquarters, next-gen products, and their big plans to go global.
And here's the kicker. This isn't just growth for growth's sake. They're actually building a really profitable business. Get this, their operating income shot up by 192% year over year. That shows what they call operating leverage. In simple terms, it means as their revenue goes up, their profits are going up way, way faster. They're getting more efficient as they get bigger.
But of course, it's never that simple, is it? When you're trying to completely overhaul a system that's been in place for like 40 years, you're going to make some waves. You're going to create some noise. So let's talk about how TransMedics is handling the competition and some of the recent media heat.
The CEO tackles this stuff head on. He basically says, look, as we keep growing and taking more of the market, our competitors, with their smaller operations and different tech, well, their numbers might get hit. He's pretty much telling Wall Street to focus on their results and tune out the other noise.
So what's the big difference here, at least from their perspective? Well, they'll tell you their OCS technology is portable, it uses real blood, and that lets them transport organs over huge distances. On the other hand, they describe the competing tech as often being stuck in one place, these back-to-base systems that don't use blood. The CEO even claims that these other systems have shown, in his words, poor and equivocal results, especially when it comes to lung transplants.
All right, now for a more sensitive topic. The company also had to clear up some confusion that came out of a recent New York Times article. It had to do with something called donation after circulatory death, or DCD, it's a really complex and delicate subject.
And on this, the CEO's response was definitive. He made it crystal clear that the whole process of declaring a patient has legally and clinically passed away is completely separate from TransMedics. That's not their job. He says that responsibility belongs entirely to the donor hospital's doctor who works for the local organ procurement organization. He used the phrase crystal clear line of demarcation, emphasizing that his teams only show up after all of that is done. They just follow the rules that are already in place.
Okay, so with a clear strategy in place and the numbers to back it up, TransMedics is now looking to the future. They're embarking on their next big quest. And this isn't about hitting next quarter's numbers. This is about completely reshaping what's possible in organ transplantation.
So, let's break down their roadmap. It's pretty ambitious. By the end of this year, they're launching next-gen trials for hearts and lungs. By 2028, their goal is to be helping with over 10,000 transplants in the U.S. every single year. And then it gets even bigger. Once their new kidney platform is up and running, they're aiming to help with over 20,000 transplants a year. I mean, the scale of that ambition is just staggering. And they've got a very clear plan on how to spend their money to make that happen. They're working to get that new OCS kidney platform out the door. They're building a massive new global headquarters to pull in the best talent, and they're looking very seriously at how to copy their successful US model and bring it over to Europe.
And that point about Europe, that's a huge deal. Yeah, the US is their main playground right now, but Europe makes up about 45% of the entire global transplant market. So if they can successfully expand there, we're not just talking about a little bit of extra growth, they could nearly double the number of patients they can help.
You know, inside the company, they apparently frame their whole mission with a pretty stark question. If TransMedics doesn't do it, who would? It really speaks to how they see themselves, as the only ones positioned to solve this massive global problem. But for you and me, for all of us, maybe the real question is, what does one company's epic quest actually mean for the future of medicine? And more importantly, what does it mean for the hundreds of thousands of people out there just waiting for a second chance?